Hello and welcome to the Scottish Football Show. Here's what's coming up. The Bairns are League One Invincibles. Lions are tamed at Fir Park as Livingston are relegated. And it's award seasons, folks. Welcome, listeners, to the Scottish Football Show, the podcast that has fun, but in a respectful way. Yes, if you're a Celtic fan looking forward to some fun next weekend, or a Rangers fan looking to have fun, just be respectful, folks, just like Mr. Clement. Yes, joining me on the show today is someone who respects himself before he checks himself. It's Sky Sports' Andrew Dickson. Hello, Andrew.
Yeah, hello. I don't really know how to respond to that. So I think the thing is as well, you sent me the script a couple of hours ago and I've had a good think about it and I don't have anything back for you. So yeah, hello. Nice to see you.
That's okay. At least you don't have to take multiple takes. It's fine. Someone who doesn't really care about upsetting the masses, flying in the face of disrespect herself. It's TNT Sports' Laura Brannan. How you doing, pal?
All right, I'm good. Nice to see you again.
Wow, someone else, Andrew, who doesn't have anything interesting to say.
Let's do a short podcast.
Yeah, getting straight to the meat and bones of it. Well, screw it. Let's go for it then. Laura, are you going to start things off with a wee funny for us?
Oh, it wasn't a lot this weekend. I feel like last weekend we were absolutely spoilt rotten for a lot of funny things that were happening. But I did like at Ibrox, they had on the scoreboard screen when Kelly took the lead. So Kilmarnock went 1-0 up in this game on Sunday, and it said on the screen, Rangers 0, Celtic 1. So not only are Kelly leading, but I mean, in a very kind of twisted, quite factual way, the points were going to Celtic in that way.
The Celtic badge was in the ground, just trying to wind up the Rangers fans even further. My goodness, Andrew, that wouldn't have helped.
It was a bit of an odd one because I think very much I was at the game and I was sitting in the press box a few along from Robert Grieve, the son, who, knowing the way Robert Grieve writes, I could see how he was going to be writing his intro to his match report if Kelly went on to win. You know, the writing's on the wall for Rangers, and they even admitted it in their own scoreboard at the weekend type thing. Probably ran a bit better than that. But yeah, it was, I have it on fairly decent authority. It was an IT issue. So I don't know if it was a database thing where it was pulling in the wrong team and the wrong team just happened to be really the wrong team. So bit of an odd one, but
oh dear,
things happen. They don't happen at other grounds, but apparently they happen. So
it's not like, I suppose it's not like do you remember was it the 2012 Olympics where at Hampden, North Korea were playing someone and the South Korean flag was put up in Hampden,
yeah, great.
And the South Korean national anthem was played as well. It's not as bad, not an international incident caused from it,
Awkward.
But still in Hampden, so it's still Scottish football. That's why it's relevant, folks. Did anyone see the Grim Reaper at Stranraer?
Well, he literally was there.
Literally was there. So Stranraer playing the League Two champions Stenhousemuir, and someone, obviously, surely they're from Stenhousemuir, decided to dress up as the Grim Reaper and go to the game to wind up the Stranraer fans. Because obviously Stranraer could lose their illustrious history being in the top four divisions of Scottish football.
Actually, the Grim Reaper went a hand.
Yeah, because they won 2-0. It wasn't enough in the end because Clyde won, but they still won and they still did their part. They did their part of the deal. It just still wasn't enough for them. So it was still relevant.
Yeah, mad. I do love the banter that fans can have sometimes, although, you know, Grim Reaper, is that a bit much? Nah, it's fine. Cool, right. Well, let's get into the news because there's quite a lot this week.
Big men are up from the back. El Mahani right foot, whips it. Oh, jeezy peeps, man.
So just before the weekend, or during the weekend, sorry, Neil Doncaster was on BBC Radio talking about the prospect of a new TV deal. So we knew that Sky have the exclusive rights of Scottish football matches for about 40 odd games, 48 games or whatever it is. But part of the deal, which goes up until like 2029, is that there was these further potential 20 more televised matches that Sky could use. But I don't know if you guys can explain a little bit more, because Neil Doncaster has said on BBC Radio that they could go to other broadcasters, which says to me really that Sky aren't going to take up the extra 20. So Neil Doncaster, which surprises me, mentions the likes of Amazon, TNT Sports, and quotes the likes of Google and everyone, all the big major players, YouTube and whatnot. But I don't know. I had no. I thought it was just a Sky exclusive deal, Laura. But is it not a? It can go to. Is it up for tender basically?
That's basically it. It's not a new thing. It's something that's been in the works since this kind of deal got confirmed quite a while ago. I think it's just kind of come into the fore now because it's obviously we're talking about next season. There's going to be more games on TV. It's a case of where are we going to watch them? There is no deal done yet, as he's confirmed, but I think fans will want to know sooner rather than later because you've got the likes of Premier Sport who are obviously showing Scotland national games, League Cup games. If they show them, then it has a knock-on effect to subscriptions because some Scottish football fans will already have them. Meanwhile, you've got the likes of The Zone, even TNT Sports, don't have any Scottish football rights in that case. So if they're going to then attract a Scottish audience, it's just something for fans to take into consideration and look at prices and whatnot going into the new season. So the sooner we can get this kind of signed, sealed, delivered and announced, the better. But overall, it's absolutely great. We're getting 20 additional games on our TVs over the course of the next season, and it would look just hopefully it's going to be more than just Celtic and Rangers games, and it's going to be actually, you know, Edinburgh derbies, Dundee derbies, relegation battles, and the whatnot, everything that we always kind of criticise. Sorry, Andrew, Sky for not showing. We're going to get a lot more variety going into next season, which is always a good thing.
I suppose it's one of those where that let's just hope it does get signed. that's from a viewer's point of view, and from a television point of view. I'm like, yeah, there might be 20 games on offer, but the longer it goes, how much is that worth? But that's another issue. Next weekend is the biggest game for a long time. Celtic against Rangers. It won't decide the title, but it will certainly either make it a little bit more interesting, or it could put it in someone's hands a little bit more than the other. Brendan Rodgers has came out and said that they can have a little bit of fun in the derby, but Clement has also retaliated by saying that those words were disrespectful. Andrew, you're a Rangers fan. You know you do a little bit over there. You know what the feeling is like amongst Rangers fans, and what is that feeling right now going into the weekend? It's a massive, it's the biggest game in this fixture for donkeys.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, on the Rodgers thing, I think Clement has taken the bait a little bit too easily there. To be honest, I mean, I think Rodgers at times this season has perhaps been a bit guilty of grandstanding to try to get Celtic fans back on side with him after the way he left the club a few years ago. It's not long ago he was coming out with a line about, oh, I've had 5 Rangers managers up against me and I've kept hearing about how they're coming for us and I'm still here and I'm still winning things. So, you know, that kind of thing is designed to get Celtic fans on his side, as is we'll have a bit of fun thing as well. He's got a bit of a swagger back about him again, Rodgers. I think there was a kind of little period just at the start of the year where I thought Celtic had maybe kind of lost a bit of momentum and looked a little bit out of sorts, but they seem to have got over that. Conversely, Rangers, having done so well for so long under Clement, probably maybe the Benfica home game in the Europa League, I think from then on they've been extremely inconsistent. They've had their moments, certainly, but I think they look tired. And I mean, listen, go back to October when Clement was appointed. I think at that point, a lot of people were, and when I say a lot, the majority of Rangers fans were probably saying, yeah, this title race is finished, it's done. It's a case of just trying to salvage the season as much as you can. Fast forward like 20, 25 games, suddenly they're back in a title race again, looking pretty good. They draw away to Benfica, they're quite good in that game. And then I just saw that home game against Benfica, it looked like the legs were gone after an hour, and it's felt like that quite a lot since then. I was at the Armagh game, and the one thing I would say, there was a great deal of frustration in the crowd. Rangers go 3-1 up, 20 minutes to go. goal difference may be an issue. Now, it might not be. There's obviously a variety of permutations, but there is the possibility if Rangers go and win at Celtic Park next week, then the likelihood of goal difference coming into play is much greater. And at 3-1 with 20 minutes to go, Kilmarnock are man down. Kilmarnock, to be honest, at that stage of the game as well, in a bit of disarray. Rangers slow the game right down, and that desire to win a title. And Celtic have demonstrated it again and again in recent seasons, because they've then gone on and won those titles. It wasn't there from all the players at all the points it should have been in that Kilmarnock game. I think that's a big concern for Rangers fans. If Rangers go to Celtic and win next weekend, even if they win by a couple of goals, they're still behind in goal difference. I don't know if there's a feeling at Rangers, Celtic have still got to go to Killie, where historically in that pitch they've not actually done very well in recent seasons, so they might slip up there. I mean, that's all fine and well. Rangers have the opportunity, it's a tough ask. They are the ones coming from behind, but they can still, determine what happens for themselves. And they had a chance today, finish 4-1, which in the face of it, they've responded well to going behind early. But that 4-1 could easily, they missed a penalty as well. They missed a few opportunities. I mean, that 4-1 could easily have been like 7, and easily could have been 7. It's not that Rangers played brilliantly, but that margin of victory would have probably been fair if it happened. So instead, they find themselves with a lot to do. And I think going into this game, Celtic are the ones with momentum. They seem to have a bit of rhythm again. Good result at the weekend against Hearts, 3-0. Looks to be fairly comfortable. They're the home team. They're the one with, Rangers are going there with no fans. Celtic have got 60,000 of them. It's all there for Celtic, and it's a tall order for Rangers. Not impossible, of course. They've gone there and won before. And the Old Firm game has always been a little bit unpredictable. Even if you think it's going to go one way, often it goes the other. So hard to see how it's going to go, but I think a lot of people will be saying it's weighted in Celtic's favour at the moment. And little things like, we're going to have fun next weekend, and then the Rangers manager bites. Disrespectful, have a bit of fun back with it, and the thing is, it was said the day before the Rangers game, so there's 24 hours to mull over it and think of a witty response. So it's an interesting one, but I think the big thing for Rangers off the back of the Kilmarnock game is that Celtic can't win the title next weekend, because had Rangers not won against Killie, then a Celtic win next weekend would have given them the title. And Rangers fans have been there before. Celtic fans are way back 25 years ago when Rangers went to Celtic and won there as well. So both teams have won the title against each other, and the fans who've been on the losing end of that know what a horrible experience that is. So I think for Rangers fans to know that if they are going to lose the title, at least it won't happen next weekend. That is some crumb of comfort, I suppose. But very much all for Rangers to do, and Celtic in control.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think other points before the weekend, the likes of Goldson being out injured is a big loss for Rangers, and the momentum for Celtic. Even the likes of Dyson Maeda coming in the weekend, he was rumoured to be out for the season. He's came back. The kind of those little shoots of confidence for Celtic are there to be seen. But you're right. You can't call it. In the last game, a lot of Celtic fans probably would have thought they would have taken a 0-0 draw. And then at some point, it was a disappointing result, really, for Celtic in the commanding point that they were in. So it's certainly, I hope it's just as exciting as it was as the last game. That's, from a neutral point of view, that'll be the best bit. Elsewhere in the SPFL, we saw some manager departures. Marvin Bartley has left Queen of the South. I chuckle because I'm a Queen of the South fan, and it's sad to see him go, but it's probably the right decision. And also for Bucky Thistle, they're Graham Stewart has stepped down after 10 years in charge there. They obviously won the league first time in 7 years. So it's a big disappointment for Bucky to lose a manager that is an absolute legend there.
I'm interested in that one, just to know exactly what the thinking is behind that, because when you've won the title, but then you've got all the stuff off field, and the club done all the stuff that it could have done to be SPFL compliant, and then there's a bit of he said, she said back and forth with that one. is the feeling from Graham Stewart, well, I've done it as much as I can do here, and it's not going to
I've done
achieve
my bit.
more than what I've done because I can't take it forward in any way. So, interested to see how that one develops over the coming days because, I mean, obviously that carrot is dangled for both the Highland and Lowland League teams, and if you get into the playoff final, that's the whole point of the pyramid. People pushed for it for many years, so then to not have the opportunity to actually go for it when Bucky will feel that they probably have everything in place actually that is required or the vast majority of things, and that any additions they need to do are relatively minor. So I thought that one was a really interesting departure, to be honest.
We had a really good chat, actually, Andrew, last week on the podcast about Bucky's situation off field and everything that happened with the SFA or SPFL, sorry. And yeah, Dave Edwards from the Press and Journal, who's covered the Highland League for like 25 years. Go and watch him on YouTube. He's great value. We even named the podcast title after one of his lines. He had an appointment with a fish supper. But he's an absolute character and explains the whole situation really, really well. So definitely check it out on any podcast platforms you use for this.
Just on Dave, Andrew, I used to work with Dave because I was at the Press and Journal
myself years
ago, yeah. And I saw him, can't remember where I saw him, but I saw him for the first time in a number of years. Rangers were in the 3rd division, and I was working at Rangers at that point, but Rangers drew Forest Mechanics in the Scottish Cup and had to go up to Forest. And I hadn't seen Dave at that point for 5-6 years, something like that. Bumped into him in there, and he just goes, "Oh, Andrew, how are you? You've got fat." I was like, "Right, thanks very much, Dave. Lovely to see you." So that was it. So, and then, to be fair, I proceeded to tuck into a very nice half-time spread. So he's trouble.
Superb. Oh, he is an absolute character. Look, the Euro 2024 is just around the corner. Like five weeks or so, or something like that. But teams taking part can now register a minimum of 23 and a maximum of 26 players in the squad, Laura, which I don't know if it's a good thing or not, considering the amount of injuries that we're having. I don't know if we can announce who's going to be available or not. But, on that, what is the injury update? Can you tell us?
Yeah, I think if you'd said this about 6 weeks ago, I'd be like, great, we can fit in all the players now that we want to take. And now it's like, so who's got a Scottish granny that we can invite along? Not ideal, but yeah, it's been increased to 26. It doesn't have to be 26. We can still register 23 if we want. It's just we can now expand it up to that. This obviously came in 2020. In 2021 for the Euros because of COVID, but it's stuck now, and it's now going to be the case going forward. On the injury front, now this time last week we were panicking a little with Scott McTominay. Then there was a leak from an inside source on Twitter that said he was out to 3 to 4 months and this came out early at the start of the week, and I swear very few things in football affect me really deeply emotionally, and I had to go on a work call just after reading this, and I felt like I'd had a death in the family, and I was trying so hard to keep it together and just like, don't think about it, Laura, don't think about it. He's out for the whole tournament. I couldn't focus at all. And then a few hours later, he posted on his own Instagram page saying, "It's fine. It just fell awkwardly. It's not as bad as first thought. It was like a hyperextension or something to his knee, whatever that means." Lovely. In code, when you break it all down, basically he's due back really soon and he's not going to miss the Euros. Well, we hope. But based on what happened last week, great. Wasn't too amused that the Man United manager said he was going to try and rush him back for this weekend's game, which... Can you not have learned a lesson from last week where you rushed him back and then he got injured again? Can we just stop playing him, please, for a couple of weeks? But at least we've escaped the bad news there, so that's a big relief. In terms of other players, Kieran Tierney was one that's been out as well. He looks to be pretty much back now. He didn't play this weekend, but he's back to fitness. It's been confirmed. Grant Hanley came back, played 8 minutes of Norwich's last game of this season.
Good done, Fries boy.
So he's been out for 2 months on Achilles injury. So not Matt Sharp, not in any way, but he's fit. 2 players that missed out the weekend worth noting. Kevin Nisbet, and now I know he's not been in the squad recently, but Millwall he got dropped from the Millwall squad for their last game of the season for disciplinary reasons. So don't know exactly what happened here, but apparently it was down to culture and standards. And he didn't feature. So don't really know if he's been a good boy or not, but
He's had a tough year there. He's had a tough year.
I mean, I've been to Millwall a couple of times, and if he's been dropped because of not adhering to culture and standards, we might take that.
That's a very, very valid point.
and the other one, as a former West Ham employee, I am not going to comment on that.
Oh,
No, and the other one was Ryan Porteous missed out from the Watford squad at the weekend. Now, he is not injured. He just got rested for the last game of the season because he was on a booking. If he'd got a yellow card, he'd have missed the first 3 games of the season. So his manager just decided to give him a rest, and that is what we love to hear.
thanks, Watford.
Yep, thank you very much. Another one, Andy Robertson, 2 goals in 2 games. Very nice. He's solving the kind of striker issue for us, I think, here. And he also got taken off after an hour, so he got a little half-hour break as well, sitting on the bench, watching the end of the game. So that's another one. Thank you very much, Jurgen Klopp. We appreciate that a lot. Please keep doing that.
Yeah. Oh God, I won't be happy until the first game of the season. That's the first game of the season, first game of the tournament, and then even then I might be hiding behind some curtains.
Football, bloody hell.
I mentioned in the headlines it's awards season. We're recording this on Sunday, while the Player of the Year awards are being given out. We're still not heard, and we may hear it as we're recording now, who the Player of the Year is. But we'll start with the Manager of the Year, because we know who that is. It's John McGlynn, the Falkirk manager, who's led them to an invincible season in League One. I think it's the right decision, guys. I don't know what you think, but he was up against Derek McInnes, taking Kilmarnock to the top 6 in their second season back in the top flight, and Tony Docherty, Derek McInnes' ex-assistant manager, bringing Dundee in their first year back in the top flight to a top 6 place too. But out of those 3, John McGlynn's the right man, Laura.
He's a standout from those 3. I'm not impressed with the shortlist, to be honest. I was a wee bit surprised. Tony Docherty, Derek McInnes.
Great achievements.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like Derek McInnes just gets a token mention kind of every second season, but he's not really excelled more right now than he has in previous seasons. Tony Docherty, he got top 6. They've been a consistently good side for a team that's just been promoted. Yes, I give you that. But when you look at like Stephen Naismith got overlooked, obvious choices of Philippe Clement and Brendan Rodgers for obvious reasons. Stephen Robinson getting overlooked for me is absolutely mind-blowing. For me,
I agree.
say he's the only one that would really compete with John McGlynn in this one. In terms of who John McGlynn is up against, yes, he was by far the standout option here. To go the entire season unbeaten is an incredible achievement, regardless of what division you're in, because it's subjective to who you're up against, and he has done exceptional. And fair play to him, because he's come out and called it his greatest achievement in his career, and he deserves this trophy to go coincide with that.
I agree. I think the Naismith thing, Andrew, for me, Naismith should have definitely been in that list because of the way things were at the start of the season, how obscure and weird it was, and then how he's turned that whole narrative around to be a positive. I think that story is bigger.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I echo what Laura said. I think out of the 3 there that are listed, McGlynn for me is the standout for sure, because an invincible season. I mean, I think Rangers did it in League One a few years back, but Rangers should have done it with all the resources that they had available to them at the time. We talked about Falkirk earlier. They've been in League One for a few seasons, so it was 5 years, I think it is. And having struggled to get out of the league, they've done it this season very emphatically. So yeah, absolutely. I think the argument for McInnes is maybe a wee bit stronger than maybe Laura felt. From the point of view that Kelly, he's gone in there taking Kelly back up into the Premiership, and now they're all not only established again in the Premiership, but they're pushing for European football and looking quite strong in that respect. So out of the 3, Tony Docherty, I would probably have removed and put. There's a good argument from Naismith, because I'd worked with 2 or 3 Hearts fans as it goes. There seem to be more Hearts fans than there are Rangers fans at Sky Sports News, which is slightly bizarre. But anyway, there we go. I think Rangers and Celtic mind still don't add up to the number of Hearts fans there are there. So chatting with one or two of them, it kind of got to November, December, and Naismith wasn't massively popular with the support, and they were wanting to get him out, and then suddenly they went on this run, and then it, had a few decent results and a few wins. Might have to stick with them a little bit, and as you say, he's very much turned it around, because actually they've had a great season, comfortably finished third. They've got group stage football again next season, whether it's in the Europa League or the Conference League. Second time in 3 years, or 3 seasons, that'll have happened at Tynecastle. Good achievement, to be fair. Little bit unlucky against Rangers in the Scottish Cup. Could easily have been in a Scottish Cup final as well. They've been very competitive. I think they have been very comfortably across all the competitions, the third team in Scotland this season. So, as Lawrence says as well, Clement, and the problem, there's a couple of problems with these awards. Award season generally comes before the end of the season. So at the moment, Celtic could win a double, Rangers could win a treble. And neither of the managers in charge of those teams are in the running for the Manager of the Year awards. That's the kind of first issue with that. Secondly, and I find myself saying this to people year after year, this is the PFA awards, where it's voted for by the players and by the coaching staff and all the rest of it. So the choices tend to be quite different from like the football writers one. Because it's gauged from a player's point of view, who you've come up against, who's impressed you. And it's quite interesting how wildly different player selections tend to be from what fans think their choices should be. There have been some great nominations over the years and some quite peculiar ones as well. So I would always kind of put that caveat in. But
are these not the more reliable choices in, because these are the players and the managers who have actually come up against each other, and that's,
I don't know, because
merits more than just what a writer thinks or a fan thinks?
I was listening to somebody, I can't remember who it was, but somebody was saying recently about it was Gary Neville actually last week this week on the Stick to Football podcast, and he was saying that he was talking about his kind of failure as a coach or as a head coach at Valencia, and he was talking about, he was relating it to being an analyst for Sky, and he was saying, I can sit up in a gantry and I can call a game because I can see it all in front of me and I've got a really wide view of everything. But he said when he was on the touchline, he was like, how do people do this? Because it's completely different. So I think the viewpoint that you have as a player is going to be extremely different from what us might have if we were sitting in a press box, for instance, because you've got a much broader view of things. And I guess in some respects that makes what the most successful managers do a little bit more impressive again, because they don't have the same view actually that we do, yet they do a much better job than any of us. So,
but then I'm not the one that's up against this player and marking him and being absolutely torn a new one when and being destroyed by him and thinking actually he's a really decent player, and that might go unnoticed when I'm watching the game. But one thing, Andrew, what you were saying, like how this comes before the end of the season, and it's always a point I've got as well, especially with the Goal of the Season award, because, like, for example, we saw at the weekend Sam Nicholson scored an absolute worldie for Motherwell. Now, that wouldn't have got the light of day because the awards were already, the nominations were already created. The awards were given out the day after he scored that goal, and that goal will never be remembered now. And look, in terms of goal of the season, Davie Martindale won it for his strike against Celtic in the 3 each game. It's outstanding. And even watching the shortlist, every goal in it is outstanding. And I think a good 3 or 4 times I kind of verbally kind of oofed at watching them on back again. Like, that one. No, that one. So yeah, no, I get it. There's lots of contenders there, but a big thing for me in terms of choosing goal of the season is actually not just the skill involved, but the magnitude of the moment as well. Because sometimes if you've got incredible skill and it's a game-changing, season-defining moment, that actually weighs more than just, it was the third goal we scored against Hibs that afternoon. And considering we've not had the title challenge has not been wrapped up yet, you could say, for example, Davie Martindale scored that in the next derby and it sealed like the decision-making goal that won Rangers the league, even more of an argument for it. But I think before decisions are made and conclusions are finalised, this should be the end of season finale. It should be the last game of the season. We have the big award show. You can't have it.
Televise it.
That as well.
I think the problem with that is that as soon as the season finishes, people disappear. And I
That's the
think
thing.
Go on their holiday bags.
Footballers have got to go their holidays and they get priority in it. The whole calendar revolves around them. And it shouldn't be the case. It should be like the Oscars, where it's treated like the biggest thing of the
Absolutely.
season. This is how we
Exactly.
have the big finale. And do you know what? The players should want to go to. It is your big send-off, big blowout at the end of the year. Everyone gets a drink, everyone has a party, and that is that's the closer to the season. And it shouldn't be
100%.
yeah, their
100%.
holidays should wait for the end of the season party.
But if you make that party the standout party of the year, they'll move their holiday a day after the party and travel hungover. That's the best way to do
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
aside
Not
from
everyone
anything else
yeah.
as well, we're all sitting here doing a podcast while the awards are happening, which is a bit disappointing that the invites got lost in the post. But anyway, the Matondo goal, by the way, that's not the goal of the season for me. I understand, the point you make about the magnitude, Laura, that adds a bit of weight to Matondo, because in the context of that game, Celtic have just Rangers have equalised, Celtic have scored straight away. It looks like they're going to win it, and then that Matondo goal gives Rangers a point, keeps them in the title race, and it ends up being a good point when Rangers at the start of the game had been looking for all three. So absolutely in that respect, it's an important goal, but I mean, I can think of 1, 2 Lawrence Shanklin goals that are arguably better strikes. There have actually been
the one in the derby, the one against
SPFL this
Hibs.
season.
Incredible.
I mean, that one, the one against Hibs, I don't think is that great a goal, but it's exactly the type of goal you've just described, Laura, about in the moment and the magnitude of it and the cementation of him and becoming this Hearts legend that I think he is on the way of becoming. But for me, it's Connor Barron's against St Mirren.
Yes,
that thunderbolt of a strike was just sumptuous. It's everything I want to see in a goal. And arguably, St Johnstone's goal, Sidibe, the overhead kick, although it was in the 6-yard area, to still do it as acrobatically as he did it, it's still pretty class. But Connor Barron's for me is the best one. There's a few weird ones in there for me. But there you go. As I mentioned earlier, the reward ceremony is literally on as we speak. And as Andrew said, our invites were lost in the post. Bastards. And I can confirm a few other bits. Championship Player of the Year was Brian Graham, Partick Thistle captain and the league's top scorer. The League One top goal scorer as well, Callum Morrison, he got the Player of the Year there for being at Falkirk. He actually extended his contract in February till 2026, so he'll be playing Championship football with Falkirk next season. Really decent player. And in League Two, really special actually, Gregor Buchanan getting the Player of the Year for League Two. The captain of Stenhousemuir, spent some time at Queen of the South as well. He's 34, I think, bit of a journeyman player, but a solid centre half. It's quite a nice thing for him to kind of pick up at the end of the season. And I think we're still waiting on the Young Player of the Year. And yeah, we'll figure out what the Player of the Year is afterwards, because we've got to move on. This podcast doesn't stop for nobody. So screw it.
Regrets? No, it's good laugh on it. So
I didn't find it funny.
Okay, Livingston's 4-1 defeat tomorrow at Fir Park on Saturday cemented the Lions' fate. It confirmed their relegation to the Championship after 6 seasons in Scotland's top flight. Davie Martindale's men hadn't won at Motherwell in over 20 years, I think it was. So it's always going to be a tough ask. But how do they dust themselves off and try to emulate the likes of Dundee United and come back roaring again at the first time of asking? Here to help clear up the debris from the Lions' Den is Livy fan and commentator for BEIN Sports Calum Brown. How you doing, Calum? Sorry to bring you on where you have to be kind of solemn and downbeat, but hopefully you can provide some Livingston fans some positive news. How are things anyway?
Yeah, I'm all good. Thanks for getting me on. Obviously, not the best of circumstances, but no, it's something I've been prepared for a while, given the nature of the season. But yeah, difficult weekend. But like I say, I've said to you the last few weeks, Andrew. So I've kind of just been on a bit of life support almost since Christmas. And that's it. That's it. Finally confirmed. We've known our fate for a while, but it's been a good 6 years in the top flight. I never expected us to stay in there for that long, but sad to go down with a wee bit of a whimper.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, my question, my first one really would be kind of like, when did Livingston fans feel like the writing was on the wall? It was the early doors, or what was the point where you thought, I don't think we can get out of this?
We actually started relatively well for me. I think we drew with Aberdeen early on. We beat Hibs at Easter Road, beat Motherwell. I want to say the first 8 games, 10 points maybe. I think we'd only lost to the Old Firm in the first 8 games. So just after that, there was a couple of poor performances. I think Kelly, Dundee, and then from about October till February maybe we went, I think, 17 games without winning, which is, obviously screams relegation, doesn't it? But yeah, I would say around then that Kilmarnock performance away was probably the worst performance of the season. Maybe match day 9, 10 around then. But even then, I wasn't really concerned. The manager had he'd spoken in the press over pre-season about, it was going to be a bit of a difficult season, and again, famously this season, he's spoken a lot about budgets and finances and things, which I'm sure fans of other clubs will be sick of, never mind Livingston fans. But yeah, I always thought it would be a relatively tough season, but I thought that we'd have enough to stay up, because we'd never even been in a relegation battle or anything. I thought, we've gone from punching above our weight, obviously, definitely, in terms of fighting for top 6, to just the deplete's been crazy. It's not even been a gradual process. You look at maybe Ross County and St Johnstone, they've been fighting it out, been in playoffs. Hamilton Accies, they were kind of, you could tell their time was coming, but for Livingston, it was just, you're doing really well, and then this season it's just been, we've just descended rapidly, and that's what's probably hard to take for me.
Calum, I'm actually really gutted that we're losing Davie Martindale from the top flight, because I love hearing from him week in, week out. I love how honest and down to earth he is. He just calls a spade a spade. And I'm really going to miss that sort of brutal honesty. But how do the fans feel about him just now? Because are they going to settle with him now in a league below, or is he really under pressure to get off to the perfect start next year?
Yeah, I mean, he does call a spade a spade. I know that from having worked at Livingston and doing a lot of his post-match interviews. I've had a fair bit of stick over the years, but yeah, it's a tough one, because everyone knows how much Davie's done for Livingston, also how much Livingston's done for Davie as well. He's been with the club maybe 10, 11 years now, since coming in initially as a coach and working his way up and things. He's obviously a club legend. It's a strange one. I can't speak for all of the fans. Myself personally, I've kind of swayed on it. I like the continuity aspect, because obviously with us going down, there's maybe a chance for a reset, a refresh, get some new players in. It's going to be a revolving door. Not to use a cliche, but this summer with loads of players leaving and loads of new players coming in. But yeah, for me, do you trust them to build us back up and have another crack at it in the Championship? I'm not sure. I think he has been very negative this season. I think as poor as we've been in terms of the players and everything, I think a lot of the criticism should be on the manager's shoulders for me. Again, regardless of what's happened in the past, I'm not taking anything away. Davie's been a club legend. He is a club legend for what he's done, those back-to-back promotions and things. But like I say, I am torn, because part of me does go, if we were to get rid of Davie, like, who would come in? Who would have that effect? Davie knows the club, he knows the Championship. He's proven in the past he can recruit. Whether or not he has done in the last few seasons, I don't know. But also there's the other part of me that goes, has it got a little bit stale? Is the dressing room with him? Has it been this season? Would it have been good maybe to bring somebody in halfway through? Would this have happened, etc.? But yeah, it probably sounds like, your generic fence sitting for myself, but I think I don't really think it matters, because I think we've probably already seen from maybe comments the last few weeks that does seem like he's planning already for next season. We've just signed a player from the National League South, I believe.
Who is that?
Liam
Liam
Sola,
Sola.
he's called. He played. Who was it he played for? Is it?
It's
That was it.
Maidstone, yeah.
Yeah, he played a part in that run apparently. So we've signed him for next season. Obviously, Davie's planning for, to be in charge for next season. So I mean, I think it is going to be Davie Martindale tasked with bringing us back up, or maybe trying to keep us from going even further down. But yeah, I think we'll see.
Just on that, Callum, I find it quite interesting when you look at other teams that have dropped out of the Premiership in the past, and you alluded to right at the end of your answer there, it's that if you don't get this right for next season, we've just seen Falkirk have finally got promotion back up from League One, but it's taken them a good few seasons to do it. And Livingston, probably a good example to compare them to is maybe Hamilton, sort of same size of core support, if you like. And instead of going into the Championship and being competitive, they went right through the Championship and down again. Is that a genuine prospect for Livingston, that if they don't get things right next season, it might actually be difficult to be competitive, and you might slide a bit further when you're up against teams with probably bigger budgets and the likes of maybe Partick Thistle, Dunfermline and what have you?
Yeah, it's certainly a worry. It's certainly something I've thought about. I think Davie had said it in his interview over the weekend, and I do agree, that we aren't a Hearts, a Dundee United, whoever, even Dundee, Kilmarnock, that can go down. They'll have the biggest budget. They can sign the best players. I think we should still be able to attract a decent level of player, and I think we're maybe lucky in the fact that there isn't a so-called proper big gun in there. Maybe, I mean, I think personally, Livingston are a Championship level club, and there are going to be bigger clubs in there, like the ones you mentioned. Falkirk coming up, probably a bigger club than Livingston. They've been in League One all that time. We've been in the Premiership all that time, but Falkirk have a bigger fan base than Livingston, no debate. Partick Thistle, Dunfermline, etc. Wraith Rovers have had a great season, so it will be tough. But I think it's a bit of a level playing field next season. We all know how tight a league the Championship is, but I mean, it could be even tighter next season. Who knows? I don't think there's an outright favourite for survival. I don't think there's an outright favourite for going up. So I think if we're to have any ambition, but I think we should be trying to aim for the playoffs at least. It's a weird one. I'd probably bite your hand off, mate. No, I was going to say bite your hand off for consolidation there, but just because I do have the fear. I do have the fear of being a Hamilton and things, just with the turnover. Is going to be a huge turnover of players in the summer, but I think we should be aiming maybe for playoffs. Again, we're not going to be the lowest budget for sure. We shouldn't. Anyway, obviously being 6 seasons in the Premiership, we've got to, if we've got anything about ourselves, at least aim high for next season.
The dogs bark and the caravan passes. The caravan keeps moving. The caravan keeps going.
Right, just to round off the rest of the SPFL, as we've just spoken about, Livingston are relegated because they lost 4-1 to Motherwell. Hearts clinched third place despite losing to Celtic because Kilmarnock also lost to Rangers at Ibrox. St Mirren took a huge leap towards Europe because they beat Dundee in Dundee. And then Ross County's late win against Hibs left St Johnstone kind of languishing in that relegation playoff fight. St Johnstone themselves, they lost to Aberdeen. And yeah, I think we can now go straight over to Laura Brannan, who's going to tell me about the Championship.
Well, coming to you live, Andrew. The Championship didn't quite have the whole final day drama like we had last season, because this time last year we were going into it with almost everything still needing to be finalised, and this year it was just a case of Dundee United got the trophy, great party scenes, sell out at Tannadice, looks great. But it was really just it was at the bottom end, so it was between Queen's Park and Inverness for the playoff position for coming 9th. Queen's Park sealed it with a 2-0 win over Airdrie, so it didn't matter what Kelly Thistle did because it was out with their control. Kelly won 3-1 over Morton, but it wasn't enough, so they are now in the playoff place. But at the top, it was all confirmed already, but Partick Thistle will play Airdrie, and the winners of that will meet Waith Rovers. And then the winners of that will play what's looking like Ross County or St Johnstone.
Exciting. I do love the playoffs. It's absolute class. In terms of League One, as we've mentioned already, Falkirk just making it over the line to confirm their invincible season. Brad Spencer's 85th minute penalty meant that it was a 2-2 draw with Alloa. So that's 36 matches unbeaten. Unbelievable. With a goal difference of 96. Class. But the playoff promotion has been confirmed. So Hamilton are going to play the winners of Alloa and Montrose, with Inverness waiting after that. In terms of the bottom of League One, it was a straight shootout between Annan and Stirling Albion, who played against each other. But because it finished 1-1, Annan avoided the relegation playoff fight on goal difference. Talk about tight. And there's some great celebration scenes in the dressing room as well from Annan. Really, really good to see them stay in League One. A bit of a local side for me, even though I'm a Queen's fan. It's absolutely fine. It's nice to see the Doonhamers everywhere else doing so well. Yeah. League Two, Andrew.
Yeah, League Two. We touched on it earlier on. Who was it going to be? Was it going to be Clyde or was it going to be Stranraer? They went into the playoff. Clyde did indeed pull off the great escape in the end. They beat Elgin to finish ninth. They won 3-0. It means the Stranraer's 2-0 win against Hesmuir was ultimately futile. They were stuck at the bottom of the table, so they'll now play East Kilbride. As we touched on earlier, Bucky Thistle missing the opportunity to take on East Kilbride in the Highland versus Lowland League playoff. So interesting there to see how that will go, whether Stranraer, that long history they've had in the league, they drop out, or and East Kilbride come in, or if it's a case of as you were at the top end. Spartans and Dumbarton, they're going to play each other for the right to play Peterhead, and then against Stirling Albion for the place in League One next season. Of course, Stirling Albion got up very convincingly last season, but now having to cling on a little bit to try to stay up there in League One.
Better pies in East Kilbride, Laura, than Stranraer, I can confirm. Pies in East Kilbride are way better. Stranraer pies, not so much.
Great roundabouts as well.
Yeah, I mention it every time as well.
So many reasons to put them into the SPFL. Just get them up.
Yeah, absolutely. Just before we say cheerio, breaking news on the podcast, but not when you're listening to this. David Watson's just been announced as the Young Player of the Year in the Premiership. An amazing, amazing feat. Product of the Kelly Youth Academy. His contract is still till 2026, which is great for Kelly. You're a fan of his, aren't you, Andrew?
Yeah, I think he's done well. I've not seen an awful lot of him, but from what I have seen, and his name has come up in discussions with people when we've been talking about players at other clubs that have impressed. So who was he up against? He was up against Lennon Miller, Ross McCausland, Lyle Cameron, I think, with the others. I mean, McCausland, with being at one of the Old Firm clubs, is the highest profile out of those, I would say, and has done quite well, but has kind of shown himself maybe to have slight limitations. He doesn't try to hit the byline as much as he perhaps should as a winger. Always cuts inside and quite often doesn't really seem to know what he's wanting to do, so just plays it back to James Tavernier. So Lennon Miller has had a lot of good press and rightly so. Plays with a very, very mature head on his shoulders at the age of 17, I think it is. And Lyle Cameron, I don't know as much about him, but certainly from what I've seen, Watson, terrific player. As you say, great for Kilmarnock that he's contracted for another couple of seasons. You would expect that if he keeps going the way he's going, that will attract attention from other people. So could be a really good one for Kelly either way in the long run.
Yes, I feel for Lyle Cameron a little bit, considering he's played all season and been doing a university degree at the same time, doing maths and economics. I mean, it's not many clever footballers out there, guys. Not many. But anyway. Anyway, that's the Young Player of the Year. We don't know who the Player of the Year is yet. And it's getting late and we can't wait for them. So just to rattle off who is actually nominated: Jack Butland, James Tavernier, Matt O'Reilly and Lauren Shankland. And I'll just get mine out the way. I think it should go to Lauren Shankland. Agree?
Yep, I agree.
Oh, you massive Rangers fan. You massive Rangers fan. You're going to go for Jack Butland, aren't you?
James Jack?
Yeah. And so I think Tavernier's goals have been great, absolutely, but I think they have been at odds with some of his performances at times. Matt O'Reilly, to be fair, has been brilliant, and as has Shankland. I just think Jack Bullen's been a tremendous signing for Rangers. I think he's been extremely consistent. And on the subject we were talking about earlier on about 26-man Euro squads, I think that might be enough to get him to the Euros.
No chance.
Third or fourth
To
choice.
be fair, it was a big shock he didn't make it into the March squad.
Yeah.
And I feel like that
I think as
was
well
merited
when,
after his performances.
Yeah, I think when there was an injury and they brought in James Trafford from Burnley, I think it was going to be one training session and they weren't going to play, and Butland was away on holiday. So I actually think Butland would have got called into that if there was a bit more reason to go, but I think they spoke to him about it. So the fact that Southgate was at the Rangers Celtic game 2 or 3 weeks back, and as well, Aaron Ramsdale hasn't played all season. He's played 1 or 2 games and looked very, very rusty. So I think Butland has been a fantastic addition to the Scottish Premiership. He has been a big reason for Rangers still being in the title race at this point. Without him and with a lesser goalkeeper, I think Celtic would have it won already. So I think the difference maker in that respect, and that would be my choice.
That's fair. The one thing to note is that the 26-man squad for the Euros doesn't include a rise in goalkeepers. It's still 3 goalies that can get in. So I don't know if that changes what you think.
I thought you could have 4 keepers.
No, it's still 3. Well, the rule book says 3. It doesn't say maximum or minimum of 3. It just says it has to be 3. So interpret that how you will, but I take it as it still has to be 3.
Anyway, I think he might make it in as the third choice anyway. So I did say third or fourth, but I think he's maybe just going to sneak in.
I think
that's only because Scotland got Big Gunny before Southgate did.
Don't you start. Don't you go there.
I literally only said that, Andrew, to wind Laura up.
On the Player of the Year, I think Matt O'Reilly will win it. I think he's been exceptional. I think that his peers will vote for him as well. I think that's where it'll go. But Lawrence Shankland, for me, for a player who has went from being, we don't think he's going to be in the Scotland squad, do you think he'll make it or not, to he should start against Germany on the opening game of the tournament. It just shows how far he's come.
I think you're right, Laura. I think O'Reilly will get it in the end, because I think you even mentioned it as well, that players might just see him as the best player that they've actually played against. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But as you're listening to it now, you'll already know and you'll think that we're idiots. So there we go.
Except me.
Cool. Right. That's us done for another podcast. Only a few more to go until the end of the season. It's going to be an interesting one next time. Because we'll know who may have one hand on the trophy, the league title, I should say. Or maybe it's going to go right to the end of the season. Who knows? Go and listen to something else now. I am tired. Good night. Or good evening. Or good morning. Goodbye.